Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Twin Peaks. Fire Walk with me. It's just so weird introducing this show and not saying season something, episode something. We're doing a movie. Typically, there was an inner struggle to decide if this should be a 1.21 in Flux, because that's the show we do all the old movies on. But no, it's part of the series, it's part of the show, and it's going to go with that. It's all part of one playlist and so on. So, obviously, we watched the Twin Peaks series. We finished that earlier this week. We watched the movie, Fire Walk With Me, which came out about a year or so after the series finished. And it is a prequel series. Now, typically with movies, we start spoiler-free and go into it. We're not going to do that with this one, because the assumption is that you've been watching the show along with us, or you've seen the show before. Movies, the same thing. So, full spoilers. You've been warned for the whole thing. That's it. So obviously Lynch directed this. It's set before the events of the seasons, and it's a bit weird. And when I say weird, it's not just weird in a David Lynch, this is kind of a weird thing. It's a weird in terms of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, as part of the Twin Peaks mythology, I like it, but does it function as a movie on its own? I'm not sure.
I don't think it does at all. We have a friend, James, who said he's seen the movie and loves it and he's never seen the show, and I can't fathom why.
I don't get it at all. I mean, that's the thing. I like seeing these smaller things that, it's like, okay, so that's how this got to that, and that's how that happened. But it doesn't really tell its own story, does it?
No, it kind of relies on you knowing the mythology already, knowing. I feel like if you didn't even forgetting the mythology, forgetting the weird stuff, I feel like there's just so many characters that just show up that we know from the show. So we're like, oh, there's Shelley, there's Bobby, there's James.
There's not quite Donna.
Yeah, admittedly, Donna was looking so different by the end of the show, though. This actress, I think, actually looks more like she did at the start of the show than Lara Flynn Boyle did at the end.
I'm not sure I can argue with that.
I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that was the thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got this weird structure where the first 30-40 minutes are different characters doing different things. I mean, it's related. It's to do with the case from before.
It never comes back up, really, does it? It never resolves.
No, it introduces a couple of things that show up later, but the actual plot itself never really comes into it. There's never a hint of.
It feels almost like a pilot for something else there. That feels like, there's another story somewhere else, so we'll get to it another time.
Yeah, but I can't deny I enjoyed watching it, because I did. That said, I know that I know it critically got torn to shreds when it came out. I don't really want to talk about that. I mean, I think that's. With the Lynch movie, I feel like that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, and I'd also assume a lot of them hadn't watched the show, the whole scheme of all the critics.
The last and more interesting part is that fans of the show are very 50-50 on this movie. At least, and that's now. I think at the time when it came out, it was very more negative, and I can kind of understand it.
Yeah, me too.
The show ends. It's cancelled. You end in that big moment, and then it's like, there's a movie coming out. Oh yes, we're going to get a conclusion, or we're going to get more of it, or whatever. And then it's it's all set before. It's just the death of Laura Palmer. Oh.
Yeah, it kind of falls into the trap of a lot of prequels where I'm not sure it justifies its existence. It's like, okay, Laura Palmer dies. Laura Palmer was on drugs. We already got all that in the show through context, through the investigation. None of this is new.
This is the weird thing, though, is that all the scenes are really good in and of themselves. Whereas, because obviously the big example people bring up is Star Wars, the Star Wars prequels, and how they don't really justify their existence. They feel, but they're also poor filmmaking, right? Whereas this is quality filmmaking. I'm just not sure it works on its own as a movie. Joe, I think this would have worked really well as, actually, is, how in Better Call Saul, and I won't get into spoilers here, but you have these little snippets of a different timeline, just in the premieres and finales of each season. I almost feel like scenes of this could have been used like that. Just getting a little bit of the actual stuff at the end and start and end of the seasons or something like that, where you see the last few days of Laura Palmer and what actually happened.
It almost feels like bonus footage in that sense. It feels like, this would be a cool behind the scenes thing, like now the sort of stuff they'd put up on a website as an accompanying piece.
Yeah, it feels like a companion. It feels like you've bought the video game, now here's an expansion with some extra bits
Yeah,
That's what it feels like. So I liked it, but I don't think it functions on its own as a movie.
absolutely.
So how I'm going to rate this at the end of this, although admittedly technically this isn't already cancelled, so I guess we don't actually have to rate it because we
Yeah,
don't
but you've
rate
got
it.
to rate it for your own personal catalogs.
I do, I do.
And no, I'm in the same dilemma. It's like, well, do I rate it on how I enjoyed it as what it did with the characters and the Twin Peaks stuff, or do I rate it lower because it just doesn't work as a piece?
I do think it's a touch too long.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I agree with that.
and the weird thing about that is because it has this weird break, like 40 minutes in, because the first 40 minutes are, what's his name? He's a new character. Agent Chester Desmond. And Kiefer Sutherland is with him, and they're investigating the previous killing that happened, a year before the murder of Laura Palmer, and that's what they're doing. And I mean, it's fine. Like it's
I feel like if that had been the whole movie, I'd maybe have enjoyed it more, like following their investigation, what they end up with.
well, maybe, but I also knew it couldn't end with them because I knew Cooper from the series that Cooper got involved at some point with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, which, by the way, when it cut to Cooper for the first time and he's like the music from the Red Room kind of came in,
yeah, yeah.
it was
That's
like
nice, isn't it?
because other than that, for the first 40 minutes, there was almost no Twin Peaks music. It was all new stuff. There was like almost hints of the evil horns at one point, but it was very subtle. And then it cuts to the town sign. It's 1 year later, and then the main theme kicks in. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, Twin Peaks.
yeah, pretty much.
I got all giddy. And then immediately after that, when we see Bobby, like not for the first time because he's in the car, but when he's at school and like the Bobby sort of music starts kicking in, I was like, oh man, this is weird. It's in widescreen. What's going on? This is like surreal.
You better get used to it.
I know because the new show's going to be like that, but at least with that though, they're all going to be old, so it'll feel like a new era. Whereas
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
like
yeah. I know
this
what
is
you
still
mean.
the same time period, and yet it suddenly has this movie quality to it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, I should mention we did not watch the missing pieces for this discussion. I do want to watch them and see what they're about. I had a glance to see what it was like. It was 90 minutes long. We did not have time for that to do with this
Yeah.
because it essentially makes the movie almost 4 hours long.
Yeah, yeah. I know there's people like there's been cuts where fan have edited it all back in, and
Yeah, I can't
don't know
imagine
if
that.
that. I
I
don't know
can't.
if that'd make it better. Like you said, this felt like a bit too long as it was. I can't
Yeah,
imagine that would help.
I've heard that the extra scenes are very interesting though and give you some clues about things and.
No, yeah, I'm sure they are.
So I am willing. If I have time this week before the new show starts, I'm probably going to try and squeeze them in because I can probably do it in chunks as well, since they're basically individual scenes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna have time.
Yeah, you're not going to have time. I know you're busier than I am this week. But like, I might, and I'll report back with anything interesting that sticks
Hmm,
out to me. But yeah, so I guess let's talk about the first chunk. Then. Let's talk about the first
yeah, yeah.
30,
Let's
40 minutes of
go with
the
that.
the investigation. So we see a little bit of David Lynch's garden, and he's got Chester there and Kiefer Sutherland. We have this weird thing where he introduces this girl who's what
Mother's sister's daughter.
mother sister's girl.
Yeah,
And she does this weird thing where she's kind of doing her dance, but not really. But the whole point of it is that it's like giving Chester a lot of messaging. Like there's a lot of things he's picking up from this. Like the hand in the pocket means this. The ripped side of the dress means that. The way she was moving her feet meant this. It was
yeah.
all.
He Sherlock Holmes it basically.
I'm going to go one step further. I'm saying he basically realised he was in a David Lynch movie and analysed it.
No, that's fair.
I think that's what he did. Uh, and it was weird because obviously, okay, they give you Lynch's Cole, it's Gordon Cole, and you're like, right, okay, right, Twin Peaks, right, fine, we're in this world, and it's got that a kind of quirkiness to it. But at the same time, I almost like when they go to the sheriff's in this town. It's a different town, and it's like the complete opposite of how friendly the sheriff's department is in Twin Peaks. Like they're just
Yeah, yeah.
antagonistic and assholes and making fun of them and just antagonistic in every single way possible. But basically, they find a letter in the fingernail, which we were expecting,
Yeah,
of course.
that was the thing as well. Again, it's the prequel promise. Like, okay, they're investigating the body. It's like, oh, there's something in the finger. It's like, wonder what that could be.
Well, yeah, it was kind of the thing, especially in the later half of the movie. As much as I was liking all the scenes individually, it did kind of feel like a chip because we knew so many things about the night Laura died.
Yeah,
Like we knew she was with James and she got off the bike. I'm like, right, that scene must be coming up soon. And sure enough, the
yeah,
scene happened, and
yeah.
You know, like there was lots of things like that where I was like, okay, I guess that scene's about to happen, and it did, and that took a little bit out of it in terms of, which is why I think I almost would have cut it up and just used parts of it as flashbacks here or there, depending on when it was relevant.
Yeah, it could really, even if you go back into the episodes, you know, when we were told, oh, she was on the bike and then she got off. Just if you just see that snippet there, even
Yeah,
like in the episode.
either there or maybe like later, but maybe when it's been solved and it's like the pieces are all getting put together, so we get to see it fully realized as like Cooper's.
Well, they sort of go through the case, the whole
Yeah.
thing, bit by bit, and we see flashes of it.
I mean, there was never a court case, of course, with the killer, but if they say there was, you could have used the footage then,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
could
I
have
know
been like
what
a
you mean.
special thing to actually see. Because I think that is the one interesting thing about it, though, is that Laura's the main character, which we never had in the show because she was dead.
Yeah,
We got to follow her, and we got to feel her dread and like her fear of Bob and all the rest of it, and you
I
know,
think one of my biggest problems is it doesn't do anything that I don't expect. We got everything so accurate through Cooper's investigation that there wasn't really anything that surprised me.
no, I think the only thing you can go to is like her mindset and like actually see the fear and feel
Yeah.
what she's going through and sort of the delirious nature of it all, because she is almost getting more dreamlike as she goes on because she's taking so much coke and she's doing all this stuff to try and
Yeah, and obviously I remember questioning as we were watching and the reveal happened, like, did she know that Bob was her father and all that? And this kind of clears that up, I guess.
yeah, which is actually one of my favorite moments in the movie. Actually, is when she sees Bob going for a diary and she runs out and she's like lying out there, and then she sees her dad come out the house and she kind of puts it together that it's
Yeah,
like she's maybe not confirmed it yet. I don't think it's until the actual sex scene, which by the way was creepy as shit.
yeah, it was.
Which is probably the best thing this movie has going for it, is that it is repeatedly very creepy with all this stuff. With
Yeah, and she screams a lot.
she does scream a lot.
And obviously, we mentioned in the final episode how scary her screaming is.
It is. It's very scary.
So, you know, it's got that going for it, I suppose.
Oh dear. But yeah, back to the case. So they have a couple of weird moments at a diner, which again, it feels like, oh, we're doing kind of Twin Peaks, but it's not exactly Twin Peaks that you know, because it's a different town, it's a different diner, it's a different type of people. This is the opposite of Norma at the counter, talking to them, kind of thing. But basically, all comes boiling down to is they go out to this trailer park where Harry Dean Stanton, hey, like him, owns this trailer park, and he shows them around to the victim. I keep forgetting her name. Banks, Teresa Banks. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's her trailer. They look around. He goes back after Louis. So he sends Kiefer Sutherland back to base, and he goes to the trailer again, and he sees this ring. He looks under the trailer and he sees this ring. And they kept talking about how the body was missed. Like they could tell it was wearing a ring when she died. There was like a sort of mark from a ring, and it's got and of course we recognise the symbol on it. It's from the old cave. It's that whole shit bug. And this is this is the most David Lynch, or the first really David Lynch thing that happens, is that he sees this ring and it's like, boom.
Yeah.
And we cut to the office and they're talking about how he's missing and they've not seen him. And,
Yeah, that's just something that's like, oh, this is getting interesting.
yeah.
But then it kind of forgets about that.
Yeah, well, so obviously we see Cooper and we have that cool thing with the camera where he notices it's like running behind and he sees David Bowie come in from
As you do.
as behind, and we get this impression that David Bowie was never actually there, even though he's on footage, and like the
Yeah,
reception
yeah.
never seen
They
him.
were talking to him, but then he just disappears, and reception's like, "Nah, he wasn't here."
But as he's talking, like we're getting these flashes of I mean the Black Lodge was a different kind of location, and there was more characters. There was like new people there.
Yeah,
Interestingly, one was a grandmother and a grandson, and we did kind of have that in the show briefly early on. If you remember when Donna went to the house across from
yeah. I wasn't sure if they were meant to be the same people there, because obviously that kid was creepy as shit.
I think they might have been. Maybe it was just a case of recasting because it's been so long. Because I mean, it was only a couple of years since they shot that probably, but the kid would have went through a lot of changes since then. So maybe that was meant to be the same people. But there was also some other characters. There's that creepy white mask with the long nose.
Yeah, and obviously you see the kid wearing that later.
But obviously this implies that this David Bowie character, Philip Jeffries, he's encountered the Black Lodge. He's encountered someone from there, and he's
Yeah.
kind of. I was actually speculating. Now it doesn't really add up with the ending, but I was kind of speculating at one point that maybe the Black Lodge looks different for everyone. Like Cooper's red curtains, and that's what we've always seen. But because he's talking and we're seeing this sort of almost like a rundown house kind of vibe, and then when Laura gets that painting later on, it's like all like flowered wallpaper kind of thing. And I was wondering if, maybe it just looks different for everyone else. Like,
maybe it's just different entrances.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But so yeah, it was that really weird thing. And Cooper goes to investigate, and he sees where the trailer was. We get a little bit of talking to Diane on the tape recorder, which is nice because
Definitely not enough.
Not enough, but we definitely wanted to hear that, so that's cool. And he's like, yeah, I have, this killer will strike again. I have the utmost. He even talks to Albert. We get to see Albert, of course, at the Home Office. And that's the other thing. There's so many of these characters who just pop up, which may not seem like a big deal, but I feel like they're obviously, if you're a fan of the show, you're recognizing all these people, and you're.
Yeah, but they're kind of superfluous to the story. It's just like, hey, here's someone else you know.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know how someone who hasn't seen the show would enjoy this, because there's so many of those characters that it's there just because you've seen them, and it's like, hey, we got these.
It does make sense, though. At least some of them do. Like, like Shelley at the diner before, the Meals on Wheels, because we knew Laura was doing that, so it had to kind of fit in. It was like just making sure it ticked that off and say, yeah, look, she was doing this before she died, kind of thing. But no, so and that was basically the point, because obviously Cooper talks about dreams, and he talks about having one, and think, I'm pretty sure the killer's going to strike again. It's going to be a girl who's in high school, does drugs, sexually active. So it's feeding some of that stuff. But then the movie really begins because it goes to Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it's this weird prologue almost, that 40 minutes or so.
Yeah.
That I don't get it. Like I like what it does, I like watching it. I get the point of, okay, this is setting up things in place, but I don't know if I needed to see that much of it. If the movie had just started, in Twin Peaks and gone from there, how much would you have missed?
I think you could have had like a 5-minute thing where they find the body, you see them get the letter, and you have Cooper be worried that the killer's going to strike again. Boom, 1 year later, done.
Yeah, okay.
Like, you could have done that. Like, it would literally just be like a couple of scenes setting that up. And that's obviously there's other things, like it introduces the ring. It there's all these little contextual things, but it does feel like it goes on a long time, and the movie could have just been a tighter, like 90, maybe a 1 hour 40 kind of movie.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, so we're with Laura, and she's like, "Hey, Donna," and I'm like, "That's not Donna." What's going on?
I'm glad they made a point of repeatedly saying Donna's name the first few times, because I was forgetting that was meant to be Donna.
Honestly, I didn't, because it was what she was wearing. It was so similar to what she wore at the start of the show, like those big cardigans, that I was like, yeah, it's Donna.
That's fair. It was just the first time, like, I was like, like you just said there, I was like, that's not Donna. And then cut back to like 5 minutes later, when we hadn't seen her. There's been a couple of scenes, whatever. And then I was like, who's that? And then she says Donna. I was like, yeah.
It's funny what sticks in your mind, though, because see when Bobby showed up and then they referenced Mike at one point. Well, you see him as well briefly, but like the reference what I'm talking about is, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Bobby and Laura were supposed to be a couple when she died.
Yeah.
It was just because I think with her being with so many other people that I forget, oh yeah, that was actually meant to be her boyfriend.
Yeah,
and
you
Donna
forget who's who.
And Donna was dating Mike at the start of the show, which again, like, I completely forgot that point.
Yeah.
Because
I will say, every time I saw James on his bike, I was just like, ugh.
Oh, he's such a cheesy character. He likes to talk in. So it's funny because at one point Bobby drops an F-bomb, and it didn't occur to me at first, but it was like 10 seconds later I went, oh wait a minute, he just swore. You can do that on the show. That's weird.
Yeah.
And then of course later on there was so many boobs that became like
it's like, you can do that on the show.
Yeah, no, you can. I can do it in the new season. It's on Showtime.
They almost certainly will do it because it's on Showtime.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I mean, Peaks. Lynch has never shied away from doing stuff like that if it helps the story. And
no,
I think with Laura's story specifically, she's gone down this dark hole where she's like we see her almost transform. It's kind of like what Donna almost did in the show later,
Yeah.
where she becomes a different person and she's becoming this dark person who doesn't want to even talk to her. She goes out to a bar and she's basically accepting payment from two random men to be a prostitute. And we obviously we hear when she talks to Renette Pulaski that they did this before and that her dad, aka as Bob, almost like went to the services. And we see like another quick flashback of that, and that was just before he ended up killing Banks. But like that whole scene, because that scene takes, because they go to the bar, and I think Donna did speak about this in the show. I remember her talking about making out with some guys.
Yeah,
on the
she
show.
definitely. I think she told it to Diary Guy.
Yes, yeah, I think, yeah. Which, by the way, I was not expecting to see him. I was like,
No.
oh yeah, him, Howard, the Fuller guy.
I couldn't remember his name, so I was just like, the Diary Guy. You'll know who I mean. But
Yeah.
I'm sure when he was writing her diary, that was the story that she told him.
Yeah. Obviously, she didn't remember all of it, which is obvious because she was spiked. She was drugged and she was drinking blind, and she'd probably be quite disturbed if she remembered exactly what she got up to. But she tries to sort of, again, it was something we saw on the show a lot, where she was trying to emulate who Laura was. But she was trying to do it on this night where Laura kisses this random guy, or more or less random, the guy who tried to pay her for sex, and she does it with the other guy, his friend, just to kind of show that she can do it. And they go to this Canadian nightclub where there's just people stripping and this constant pounding music, where they knew they needed subtitles. Like, they thought, well, let's put in subtitles.
This is one of those few bits that I know of rare trivia. When this was shown in the UK in the cinemas, Lynch at the time couldn't decide if he wanted it to be subtitled or not, and it was really late in the process that it was decided. So all the British prints didn't have it. They didn't have the subtitles for this, all the backward speaking stuff.
Oh man. Okay, that would have been impossible to hear then.
It would have been a chore, because I was like, how do you make out any of it? It was a good, 5-10 minute section?
Yeah, I'd say at least 10. We went quite well on that, because there was that pounding music kind of going on throughout the whole thing, and that the whole, obviously it's like she's sunken further into this dark hole where you can barely hear or make her out, and to the point where she takes her top off when she's just dancing with this guy, and she's topless for ages.
Yeah, it's kind of why I'm struggling to remember how long that chunk is, because that music is so repetitive and it just goes on, and it's just like you kind of gets into a trance. I'm like, how long was that?
I think that's the point. I think it is trance-like. I think
it is. Yeah,
that's the gist of it. But it's funny enough, it's when she notices Donna's kind of doing what she does, and Donna's topless, that she breaks out and she screams. Actually, she does the full Laura Palmer scream, and she runs over and takes her home. And I think that's interesting for her perspective, because she doesn't want to drag her down with her.
Yeah, she's still ultimately a good person. It's this spiral that she's going through herself, but like I say, she doesn't want to take anyone with her. She's still good to her friends.
Yeah, I think probably some of the most effective stuff in the movie though is the sex scene with Bob, and you know it's going to cut to B. Leland at some point.
You know it has to, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really creepy, and I actually think even creepier than that's the morning after at breakfast.
Oh, where he just comes in and like has no idea.
Yeah, and he's just talking to her as if nothing's wrong. Yeah. Like that for me was like super creepy. It was kind of like, I mean, I'm not sure if the analogy's meant to be here for actual child abuse, but it certainly feels like it's like this scene was really feeling awkward as a result of it, and it was oofed.
Yeah, I think it worked a lot better as well, because earlier on, when she saw Bob and then saw Leland, and she was outside, when she came home and he was like, "Oh, sit down, have dinner."
Yeah.
And that's where he starts going on about a finger, but it has the same sort of vibes as it does the morning after the sex scene.
Yeah, but that's obviously this is turned up to 11, because we actually have just seen him do this. But no, really, really creepy stuff, which is probably my biggest praise of the film. I think it gets proper sinister and creepy with the way it's tackling stuff.
Definitely.
Now, obviously, she gets this painting, so it's the Meals on Wheels. She's about to go do that, and the grandmother and grandson show up, and the grandson is now wearing the creepy mask that the other guy was wearing when we saw the previous sort of window into the Black Lodge. And it's this painting of a door that they give, and they give her this painting. They say, "Oh, say something about Bob from the other side."
Yeah, and they tell her that she should hang it on a
Yeah,
wall.
she's hit on her wall, and it's when she finally does, and she has this dream again, coming back to like Cooper having dreams, her having dreams, and she goes through the door and the wall, and she can kind of see it in the painting at the same time, which is a really cool
Yeah, yeah.
little
But
effect.
there's the thing, I love that the way it's filmed. Like you say, Lynch, he knows how to film things, regardless of
Yeah,
whether or not it has purpose or not. You know, like they say, where she's going through the door looking back, and you can see the other one in the door looking back, and as she goes through, it's like, well, she can't see it anymore, but we can see both.
yeah. You really feel like you're watching her descend into a nightmare, even when she's awake. Just not just this scene, but the whole thing. It feels like she's just spiraling out of control,
Yeah.
and you know it's ultimately going to end with her. Even though I think there's one uplifting point to it, but I'll get to that when we get to the ending. So she has this dream, and she wakes up in her bed and she thinks she's woken up. It's kind of an Inception-y, dream within a dream kind of deal. And Annie's lying next to her, bloody.
Yeah.
And I think this is having just finished. I think fans of the show as well back in the day probably got the most excited at this moment. It was like, oh god, what? Talk to us. What's going on? And she even says, "Good Cooper is trapped in the Black
Yeah,
Lodge."
yeah, you've got to write this in your diary.
You got to wait to and she never does. And you
No.
almost wonder, like, had she written that? And it ties in, of course, because we've talked about how Cooper was old and the first dream he had, and how whenever they think they get dreams from the Black Lodge, the messages from the Black Lodge are not necessarily in time, like they sit like, together
Yeah,
in sync.
definitely not.
But we've seen that they can be from the past or the future, that kind of thing. And it's like, holy shit, she got a message from Annie like before all this happened. That is,
Yeah, yeah. It's like as much as prequel, we know there are things in the Black Lodge stuff that is, after the show because
yeah, because you see Cooper in there, and you get that again, timey stuff's happening, and it's actually him from Post.
Yeah, but because it's so well established that time is funny in the Black Lodge, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. But and this is when we need to talk about the ring, because the ring's been introduced to this. We obviously mentioned the ring under the trailer, and that's when Chester Desmond went missing. And we see the ring in a few other places. We see the one-armed man wearing the ring, and he's different to everyone else because when she dreams about Cooper, she dreams about Annie. They all say not to put on the ring.
Yes.
Whereas the one-armed man's kind of different. He doesn't say put it on, but he just kind of
Encourages her, doesn't he?
yeah, he encourages it, especially at the end of the movie. Obviously, when he's running trying to find her and he throws the ring in.
Yeah.
And the ring, this is one of these things where it's one of these Lynch MacGuffins where, okay, normal movies have MacGuffins where the plot revolves around an item or something like that, where it drives the plot.
It's not something you complain about in a movie because it's just that's how movies work.
But what Lynch does with MacGuffins is he doesn't tell you what the hell the MacGuffin is or what it does. It just still functions the same way, though.
Yeah, yeah. So you're only really getting half the story.
Yeah, so you're trying to figure it out, and I wasn't sure what it was trying to tell me throughout the movie. Like obviously having the first victim wear it, I thought, is it like a sign that they're going to be
This
taken?
person is chosen, sort of thing. Yeah.
But then Mike has it, and like all these other like people from the lodge are saying like either wear it, don't wear it, kind of thing, and like I wasn't sure where it was going with it, really. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I have some more thoughts given the ending, but
Yeah.
up until that point, I really didn't know. So events play out, and we see Leland possessed by Bob, like sort of knock out Jacques. Which, by the way, Jacques another character we've not seen in the show for so long that it was like, oh, Jacques, yeah.
Also, the fact that Leland followed her there. This is what I really want to point out. So she's really quiet. She sneaks out the window, and then James pulls up on his roaring bike. It's like, yeah, because the parents ain't going to hear that, are they? And I'm sure they know James has a bike.
Aye.
I'm just like, really?
Well,
Come
he's a
on,
fool.
park the bike around the corner. She can walk round.
So yeah, he follows her to the cabin where we know that both the girls spent the night with Leo and Jacques, and they're having their demented sex thing, and it's one of these things where it's showing you some nudity, and it's showing you how sort of depraved the whole thing was.
Yeah.
But you never seen that quite in the show. It was really, and it gives the movie a darker tone. Like the whole thing feels like it's more of a descent into madness than the show ever did. The show always had a nice sort of, like, let's have a joke about cherry pie and let's do this.
Yeah, it's because ultimately the descent into madness had already happened by the time we got to the show, so we didn't need to experience it.
yeah, I think that's fair. But he takes them to the train car where we know the murder ended up happening. And obviously, I actually had this thought during the finale of the show, actually, but it was again coming up here because the whole fire walk with me thing, especially in the show, it would cut to like the fire sometimes when it was Bob talking. Like
Yeah.
it cut to like just images of like explosions and flames and whatever. And I think it's just the sense of fire walk with me is like when he's inside you.
Yeah.
It's like, walk with me. Like, I just, like, that's the sense I was getting. But anyway, so he's doing his thing. And so, obviously, we talked about in the show a lot how he wants Laura to let him in. He wants to possess her.
Yes.
He's done with Leyland, he wants her. And that's what he's building to. He's trying to break her down so she'll do this. And I think with the ring, I think putting on the ring is making the choice of that. To an extent. And I think that's why everyone's telling her not to do it. But I think because the ring comes from Mike, and when she puts the ring on, I think she's accepting she has to die. She doesn't want to be taken over, so she's saying...
Yeah.
Because and the reason why I'm saying this is because a couple of seconds later, an angel shows up and frees Renette Pulaski. And all I could think was, oh, okay, well, this must be from the White Lodge. But we talk about the Black Lodge so much. We know there's a White Lodge.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
makes sense.
We got all this. Is Mike from the White Lodge? Is that where he's from? Specifically,
Yeah, especially obviously it's an angel, literally white, glowing.
Yeah. So is her putting on the ring what calls the angel to come and at least help the other person, if not her?
Yeah, it's the self-sacrifice in this case.
Yeah. And of course Bob's killing her because at this point he realises he's never getting her.
Yeah, so it's just rage.
Yeah. He's not getting her soul essentially, which is what I think the ultimate ending is that so Leland goes to the circle with the curtain, goes into the Black Lodge, and he is told by the one-armed man and the man from the other place to what was the word? Oh, sorry, I can't remember the word now. What's the word?
I don't have the exact word. Sorry.
It was
Yeah.
your pain and sorrow, I think was what it meant. It's actually said in the subtitles what it meant.
It was a different language.
It was
or something.
Gozabanum or something.
Gazambium?
That sounds kind of right. Yeah.
It's in that. It's in that. There's a reason I can't remember it because I've never seen it before.
It was weird. No, I agree. But Laura's not there. Now we know this is kind of the waiting room, but we see Laura in a similar room, like red curtains again, similar kind of idea. With Cooper, and Cooper, it's Cooper. It's not the others. It's not Giant. It's not the little guy. It's just Cooper, and he's very welcoming. You genuinely feel that this is Cooper post show.
Yes.
That this is good Cooper afterwards, and the light starts flashing, but it's not as quick as when it's Bob coming.
Yeah.
And then an angel comes, and it ends with her looking up and kind of smiling at the light. And it kind of feels like our soul has been saved in some way.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other way to interpret that last scene other than she made a choice that ended her life but at least saved her soul. Because Bob didn't get it.
Yeah, no, I get that.
That's about as much as I can come up with.
The only question that begs is why do we still see her in the Black Lodge as her?
Well, arguably we don't. Maybe, because remember they said that was the waiting room. Maybe the waiting room's for both.
Oh, okay. No, that's fair.
Because when we cut to her in this place, it still looks the same as the Black Lodge.
No, you're right.
Assuming this is indeed the White Lodge, but I imagine it is based on based on what's happening.
I also wondered the bit with Leland, if maybe that's the bit where his hair turns white and Bob's like fully got him then. I wonder if that bit where he goes in there and we see all that stuff is if that's actually that moment. Just out of time again.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
And maybe that's what actually saves Laura to some degree as well, like him offering himself.
Yeah, he offers the last of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see it. Because he sucks out, he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounded really dark the way I said it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you've seen it, you know what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's what saved her, is that he ultimately offered himself in there, yeah.
I don't know, but it'd be nice for Leland to have done something good at the end and, have made a difference.
Well, because you can see throughout the movie, he kind of there's moments where he kind of comes back into control to an extent, where he realizes because he sees his daughter, but he thinks he's going to have a threesome or whatever with some prostitutes, and he sees his daughter and he kind of snaps out of it.
Yeah.
And he has these moments of sort of self-awareness. But no, he obviously Ray Wise gives a great performance in this.
Doesn't he always?
Yeah, I mean both him and Cheryl Lee playing Laura, I think they're both really good. What is interesting, I actually did learn this today, is the actor who played Bob, unfortunately, suffers from mental illness now. So he won't be in the new show. But we know Ray Wise is in the new show, and I'm wondering if Ray Wise will now play Bob.
I can see it.
I feel like thematically it's the one that makes the most sense to just let him do that now.
Yeah, like he became that, like that part, that side of him.
Yeah. Just give him a denim jacket. It's fine. Give him a denim jacket and I'll buy it. I'm actually really curious.
I mean, you say that's the thing. Obviously, we've only ever seen Bob in that one form, but given what he is, if they tell me, oh, he can look like something else, I have no problem buying that.
Yeah. I have no problem with that. I think what's interesting to me now is what other characters are going to pop up. I've got a funny feeling we might see Donna because they already recast her for this, and then they could just sort of because they can easily explain why anyone's not there. It's been 25 years. It's like
and it also depends the reason why she wasn't in this. Like it could have just been a scheduling thing.
I believe she didn't want to. I believe she turned it down.
Right. Okay.
In fact, I also believe Kel MacLachlan turned it down initially and then changed his mind.
Ah, okay. I mean, it's not like he's got much to do in this, really, has he?
But I think that's why it has so little to do, is because they had to sort of rejigger it.
Work around and go. I wonder if maybe that all those agents at the start was kind of meant to be him the whole time.
Well, I don't know, because
for more of it at least.
Because they set up Agent Chester Desmond, and I'm wondering, like, are we going to see him in the new season? Like, he went missing. Like, is he going to pop up?
Well, it's possible.
I don't know. I mean, that could be the one really relevant. I mean, other than the mythology stuff with the lodges and the angel and that kind of thing, like, because that was the true thing that felt new. Other than the stuff at the start was it was the angel and this ring, but a lot of the actual details of what Laura was doing through the last few days were pretty much what we expected. I mean, they were really well shot. They were really tense, and they were really like hypnotic, as we said, very dreamlike and nightmarish.
Yeah. But it wasn't new, like you say.
Yeah, it was information that we kind of already had, which makes it a really weird thing. But at the same time, I would never recommend watching this before the show because it spoils who the killer is, and don't do that.
Yeah. James is a bloody madman, though.
I know. Like,
do you know something I found really interesting about the angel? Just to get back to that scene. I love that it came from the painting, the other painting though that she had on her wall.
That's a good point. Yeah, we didn't mention that. Yeah, she had this other painting, and it was like 3 or 4 small children at a dinner table looking up at an angel, and the angel faded away. Like,
yeah.
So at one point in the movie, it faded away. It was after she put the little painting up. Sometime
I think
after
it
that.
might have been. Yeah.
Yeah. It faded away. And I was like, oh, is that because the evil's in the room now? This angel can't be here?
But yeah, that's what I was saying. So obviously, she got the painting from the Black Lodge people, right? They gave it to her.
Yes.
So it was almost like, okay, we know you've got this almost protection from the White Lodge in your room, and we can't get you.
But this is
if
a doorway.
You put this in, this is a doorway into your room, into you.
Almost literal doorway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
because even during this, I was thinking, like, who's going to pop up? Because obviously certain characters don't, and I mean, it makes sense that we don't see the sheriff or even like a lot of the other characters because they're not really relevant.
It'd be like Andy and Lucy. How weird would it be to see them? Like the tone.
Yeah,
like it'd be so off because they're just so cheerful.
Yeah, so I get it. So I'm curious as to who's going to be very relevant in this new season, and I feel like the mystery of Chester Desmond might pop up. Like, I can see him popping up at some point.
And that would alleviate some of my problems with this movie, because obviously one of the big problems is I don't feel like that part of the movie really goes anywhere, at least in this movie. But if it comes up in that show, at least I can go, right, okay, there was a purpose to it. I get why it was there. and that retroactively makes it a little bit better for me.
I'm curious as to why this was the choice. Like at the time, 1992. Well, 1992 when it came out, so maybe a year before that or whatever. But when the decision, okay, we're going to do a movie. Why was this the choice? Why was it the choice to do a prequel? Why was it the choice to explore this stuff specifically?
Yeah, it was like, okay, you've been greenlit a movie. Why a sequel instead of answering the questions of the ending?
Now I get that Lynch likes to be cryptic, so I can understand part of it, but I'm just curious as to what about this interested him, and maybe it is the idea that Laura had this small victory at the end where she got to defy Bob with her final act. It gives her a little bit of an upswing compared to because she seems like such a tragic figure otherwise, but she got to at least take a little bit of control in the final moment. Perhaps maybe that's what it is. Will this ring pop back up? Because we've never seen the ring in the show, but there was a lot of talk of other rings. The giant took Cooper's ring. At one point.
Rings were a big thematic point.
Yeah, circular sort of thing. Obviously the circle in the woods. There was a lot of stuff in this movie specifically with the fan revolving. Because Oh, it's another point actually. Her mother seeing the white horse just before Bob goes in to have sex with her. It's almost like that's a warning where she, and it's like again he gives her this glass of milk first, presumably with something in it. to
you have
out.
to assume some sleeping pills or something. Yeah,
just to knock her out, so she's not aware of it. But the idea that her mother, like her, perhaps maybe she passed down. We talked about this before because she's seen Bob way at the start of the show, and we talked about how maybe they both have these abilities to maybe see things from the Black Lodge or the White Lodge and have these kind of experiences, and that this is a warning. She's seen this horse as like a final warning sign for it, but she's too weak and doped up to do anything about it.
Which is ultimately, the same fate as when she sees the horse in the show.
Yeah, and I have to wonder, it's almost like she is again like a prelude to Laura, just in the way that she's constantly drinking and smoking to sort of dull whatever.
Yeah, it
she
makes
goes
a
through.
big point of showing us just how much she smokes.
Yeah, a ridiculous amount. And you get the sense it's kind of what Laura's doing now with the cocaine and everything else.
Just more extreme.
Which, by the way, I suppose one scene that was a little bit weird for me is that Bobby killed a guy.
Yeah, I was like, did he kill a guy? I'm a little confused.
I remember there being a body they had to take care of early on in the show, but I don't know. I don't recall ever thinking that Bobby specifically killed someone.
No, because obviously I think Laura, I think it was James. She was saying, "Oh, Bobby killed a guy. Let's go. I'll show you."
Yeah.
And then we never really get to it. I was wondering if she was just so coked up that whatever happened, she thought it was something different.
Maybe that's not really what happened. She just saw that.
Because we're seeing a lot of that stuff through her perspective. It feels like, at the very least. So I don't know if I can trust what I saw there, because I feel like she was so coked up at that point that I don't know if that's actually what happened.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I can see it.
Because, like you say, it felt a little bit weird. It also seemed a bit weird when, at the start where she just, in the school, goes and does coke in the toilets. I'm like, right, so no one knew you were on drugs at all. Yeah, you're going to go and just do it in the school toilets.
Well, Bobby did. I think.
Okay, yeah.
I think James suspected, even brought it up in this, that he was like, you on something again, kind of thing.
Yeah, Donna seemed a bit clueless, though, if I recall.
Well, she did repeatedly point out that Laura kept at her arm's length and kept not telling her things, and talk about how night time's her time, but she won't let her into that part of her life.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll say this though, for a teenage girl, she has quite a hit. Like, the fact that her and Ronette Pulaski previously worked at a whorehouse and have now retired from the whorehouse and reminisce about the whorehouse, and they're still teenagers, is just like, man, like, jeez.
Yeah.
It's a lot of history to have by that time.
It is.
I mean, but yeah. Also, one little subtle thing I really liked is when they kiss the two guys in the bar, Laura and Donna. When Laura goes to kiss the guy, it is the most disgustingly, like, in your face, because you can see the tongues proper and everything, like, in the kiss.
Yeah.
Well, they go out of their way to make you feel uncomfortable with how overt the kiss is. It's even later on, actually, when she's kissing Jacques.
Yeah, I mean, it feels the whole way with all of that sex and nudity stuff. All that side of things is very over the top
and disgusting.
Yeah,
basically,
and it's just to make you go, okay.
Yeah, it's dirty and grimy, and it's not like.
Yeah, it's not something that's supposed to be enjoyed.
Yeah,
it's supposed to make you feel like this is uncomfortable. This is wrong.
Yeah, it's technically consensual, but it's like consensual by like, yeah, I'm going to like take as much drugs as possible, so I don't have to know what I'm doing for the rest of the night.
Yes, yeah,
So it's in that weird kind of just crimey like subsect. Ugh. But
yeah,
the whole thing is uncomfortable, and that's kind of the point. But it's very hypnotic as it's all happening, and you almost feel like you're with her, like you're kind of hopped up, like, and it's all just happening in front of you. That you have to. So, from a filmmaking perspective, Lynch obviously knows what he's doing, and he's knocking it out of the park, like with every scene almost.
yeah. No arguments here on that.
It's just it's a really weird product. If that's a really bad word to use, but it's as a movie, as a complete package, it's a really weird thing.
Yeah, as a self-contained, as this is a release, as this is a movie, it doesn't really function, does it?
But as a companion to a show, and
Yeah,
again,
as part of the overall story.
and we get to watch this knowing that we have a new season in a week, so we're like, yeah, sure, like yeah, I'll get.
I can see why people were frustrated. It's the same kind of thing with X-Files.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like, yeah, here, have a movie. We ain't wrapping it up. Here, have another movie. Still not wrapping it up.
yeah. Well, the first one happened in the middle of the show, to be fair, but yeah, that second one that happened like after the fact, it was
All right. Yeah, but then it went, here, have another TV season. You think we're going to wrap it up with this?
Well, I'm not expecting Twin Peaks to wrap up neatly. I'm expecting ambiguity at the end, but I'm expecting an arc to close. I feel like we are 2 acts into the story.
Yeah, I expect it to feel like an ending.
Yes,
but it might have ambiguity in what the ending is. Sure, I've got no problem with that, but I do expect it to feel like it has an ending.
Yes, no, I concur with that. Which X-Files doesn't feel like. Although that's getting another 10 episodes next year, so.
It's still not going to end, though, is it? It's still not going to do it.
It's going to end in a cliffhanger, like hinting at the real mystery. Like after all this time, there's this.
You know it is.
Oh dear God. But I wonder, like, have we seen Annie in the new show? I've not checked to see if Heather Graham's in it, but
I have not looked. I mean, we watched the trailer for the first time the other day.
We did this week.
Pete took the dive and told me it was safe.
I did. Some new characters in there.
Yeah.
Some glimpses, of course. There's glimpses of Cooper, who's looking very sinister. I'm feeling like he's opening this Bob. Like when
I
we
think
start.
he might.
We also we had a quick glimpse of Shelley. There's a glimpse of Gordon with Albert, which obviously I actually was really surprised when I saw him, because obviously he passed away recently, and I did not know that they'd filmed stuff with him before that. So I was actually really kind of pleasantly bittersweet surprised.
And it means they got enough to use everything they at least needed to.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure shooting probably finished a while ago. It's 18 hours essentially it's like an 18-hour movie.
Yeah, especially when Lynch is directing all of it. It had to have been going a while.
Yeah, so I feel like they probably finished filming a year ago. Maybe close to that.
Maybe. I mean, maybe not quite that long ago, because they were having those disputes about episodes and stuff.
Oh yeah, but that was way back in 2015.
Is that long ago?
Yeah, because remember they were going to do it, and then Lynch pulled out because they were arguing with
Yeah.
much. And then they said, no, it's definitely coming now. But because I remember they announced, it's going to be 2017, but that was because it felt like a long time away, because it was like still 2015 when they announced that it was finally happening. So
I bet he wanted it to be 2016, just so it could have been the nice 25 years.
Hey, it's 25 years since this movie at least, so it's still.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Yeah. Besides the Black Lodge.
Timey-wimey.
Timey-wimey. Yeah.
On the trailer, I thought, oh man, this is a great trailer. It tells me absolutely nothing, but I'm enthralled with every cut, because it cuts between things.
Yeah, and it's got
this is great.
Really sinister, bassy synth just playing throughout it, and it's like, this is David Lynch. I can recognize this sound anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But I have like almost no information from the trailer about it's going to be.
There's a shot of a camera. There's a shot of old Andy.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea. Obviously, there's tons of characters we know are in it that we don't see, but we'll see. Are we going to get Dick? Is Dick Tremaine going to make his appearance?
I don't know if there's more trailers out there yet, because I haven't gone searching.
They've been putting out featurettes talking about how much of just talking about the genesis of the show and the history of it. I don't know if there's been much more in the way of actual.
Yeah, and I hope there's not. I don't want to see any more. I want to just that was enough. I'm excited. I don't want to know too much going into this.
Nah, I mean, honestly, I'm not worried though. I feel like Lynch Lynch
has
is
some
very,
sort of control.
yeah, he's very uncommercial, but in a very good way if you care about his stuff. That he doesn't like, because he recently said he didn't want to do any more movies, and the reason he gave was like, yeah, my movies don't make money, and no one wants to see them at the theaters. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I'm like, yeah, but Lynch, there's still a dedicated following. Like, do some VOD stuff. Like, just do a movie. But that said, though, I'm getting 18 episodes of Twin Peaks. I can't really be mad at him.
No.
Just
You
now.
can, in a way of like, how secretive J.J. Abrams is with his movies. It's kind of the same sort of thing where it's so close to the chest. They know what's going on. They've got the information, but you kind of just have to go in a fairly blind.
Yeah, no, and I think he has a lot, because that's actually one thing. I watched the featurette. It was just a 5 minute thing talking about the impact of the show, and even though it obviously cancelled after 2 seasons, the impact that it had on TV as a whole. One of the sound bits that really, I know we're off the movie at this point, but this is as good a place as any to put in this little conversation. Is I don't know who has been interviewed at this particular point, but he said basically back in 1990 when it premiered, TV was lame. Staying in and watching TV was like a lame thing to do. TV just wasn't a good thing necessarily. For drama, I think there's a lot of good sitcoms from the back then, but thinking about it, how many good dramas were on at the time? It wasn't like the whole idea of it being a water cooler show was basically invented by Twin Peaks, where you talk about it at work the next day.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, what was it, ABC in the 90s? Just the idea of that.
Yeah. And just how many, like, I know Lost was inspired by Twin Peaks. I think the whole idea of having a big cliffhanger at the end of an episode that revealed something is kind of largely inspired by Twin Peaks.
I'd argue just how serialized it kind of is, because there's some episodes where literally like nothing happens, and like little bits would happen here and there, but for the large part, nothing. It wouldn't have its own focus of an episode, and
Almost
I feel
to a
like
fault, but yeah.
Sometimes to a fault, and I think that's been improved upon in the past 20 years. Don't get me wrong,
but
but it definitely seems to have come from there.
But I think it's really true though when you look at TV. Like TV got good, like in the last couple of decades. Like good TV. Like no, you don't really find people off. I mean, people have fond memories of the A-Team and of Knight Rider, and they're fun, but people don't talk about them like good TV. Like you have Twin Peaks, and then I think Buffy was maybe not obviously X-Files was in between them, but then Buffy was a big thing mid-90s. It was really the late 90s where things like Buffy, and then you had 99 I think was Sopranos when it came in. That was the first big HBO show, and you had these other things.
Yeah.
And TV became this premium like thing where you had great, and then by the time you get to the mid-2000s, you've got things like Lost, you've got things like The Wire, you've got things, and now we're at the point now where we have so much like quality TV that it's just like
I mean, there's a reason it's now is referred to as the golden age of TV, because now is quality where you can snag movie actors and it's not washed up movie actors. It's still in the peak going, hey,
it's not a
this
demotion
is a good
anymore.
Project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a demotion anymore. I think that's a big deal. I think, and honestly, TV in terms of original ideas, TV tends to be a bit more exciting these days. Just because movies, at least for the big budget stuff, it's all they have to be tentpoles, they have to be part of a franchise, they have to be we're making a King Arthur movie, it's going to be the first of 6. Yeah, good luck with that. You tanked hard. Good luck.
And I think for me, I've for a long time preferred TV as a medium when it's done well, just because you get characters that you really have growth and arcs that you can have over movies. They can have so much growth. They can have arcs.
The characters feel more like a family to you in a weird way. Like by the time you get to the end of Buffy, you feel like you've grown up with some of these characters, because they started as they were meant to be like 16, 17 at the start of the show. Then by the time you finish, they're all in their mid-20s, and like season 6 of Buffy has her worried about bills. Season 1 Buffy didn't worry about bills.
Exactly.
She's grown up, and you feel that.
You can have that to an extent in movies, but seeing it like on such a decompressed level on TV really makes you care about characters as people rather than just as a character.
Yeah, it can feel like comfort food almost, where you like, it's the characters that I know really well, and they're back for another adventure, whatever. Even if it's a sitcom where it just happens to be like some stupid plot that week, or if it is something like a sci-fi show where they're fighting a monster.
And I do think that's something you can lose in a binge watch if you do it too fast, because you don't. It just in the same way that when you watch a movie, you watch all the growth in one go. Whereas in a binge watch, you can kind of go, okay, all the growth is in one go.
Much longer, but one go.
Yeah. Whereas even spreading Twin Peaks out over these, what I think we started in January, so about 4 months, I think it was, give or take.
Yeah, it was just enough time between each episode that let them sink in a bit, let it feel
Mm.
like it was. Let me be excited for the next episode. Whereas with a binge, you just put the next one on, which I like as well. Like, see, before we started this channel, before we started doing all these reviews of TV shows, I was typically someone who, other than a couple of shows, probably did just wait and then binge the season.
Mm.
And I still do that with comedy. I still prefer doing that with comedies because I feel like they're so easy to just do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like having the next one to put on whenever I'm eating or something like that. But doing this channel and being up to date in like so many shows and watching them week to week and being able to talk about them is sometimes it's a bit overstuffed. Right now is really busy, but
Hmm.
it does benefit a lot of the conversation. It's a big part of it.
Yeah, and I think obviously as well, barring things like Netflix shows, they are designed to be watched week to week. They're designed to have, this is the episode you get now,
Yeah.
and then events a week later. So I feel like you do lose something by just watching 3 or 4 back to back.
And arguably with like the binge stuff on Netflix that are designed for that, they're still kind of figuring that format out. It still doesn't feel like they've kind of. I mean, admittedly, I think that we're getting there. And I think Stranger Things, for example, is a much tighter, better paced show than any of the, say, Marvel Netflix shows, which I like a lot of those, but they all have pacing issues.
They do, yeah.
So it's interesting how we're into this new era of all these different things. But I just to wrap it back around to Twin Peaks, I think Twin Peaks is responsible for inspiring and showing that you can have. I think in the featurette they mentioned, it showed that you could do like a piece of art on TV. It wasn't just mindless entertainment.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It had a vision. It wasn't like a lot of the shows at the time were procedurals. Like,
Yeah.
here's something that they do this week. Here's something they do that week. Whereas this was, no, there's a story.
Yep. And I don't think anything excites me more in a good TV show and a good ongoing story that feels like it's all building up to something at the end.
Absolutely.
So, no. Oh, there you go. No, I feel that again. We said the last episode felt like the end of a journey. This also feels like the end of a journey, and I feel like ultimately we'll have that again because in a few months' time, when we end the new season, it's going to feel like the real end of the journey.
Yeah, it just was this year. I mean, Twin Peaks going to finish about what, September-ish?
Early September, yeah. I think the announced
Right.
date is like September 4th or something like that.
I checked my records. I think we started the first episode of this on the 4th of January. So
Right. Okay.
over the majority of this year for us, we'll have had Twin Peaks every week consistently.
I'm glad we did this. This is
Me too.
special. So yeah, obviously we enjoyed the movie. It has a lot of great things in it. It's fantastically directed. It doesn't really function as a movie on its own. I am interested in checking out the missing pieces, but it was just too much to pack in to do it for this review because it was another 90 minutes. But that is kind of my final idea on it. And obviously there's probably stuff we missed. It's hard enough keeping track of everything that happens in a 50-minute episode of Twin Peaks, never mind a 2-hour plus plethora of it. But no, I am glad we did this. Looking forward to the new season. And I will take this time, if you've stuck with us, we will announce a new already cancelled that we've got planned for the summer. We're not doing it straight away because things are really busy right now. And we won't always have a second one. Admittedly, one of our Patreon goals is to have a second ongoing one like Star Trek, where it's just going to be lasting for, seasons and seasons and seasons. But we've got an idea for another one that's like Twin Peaks in that it's relatively short. It's about the same number of episodes. So come June, we will be starting and finishing by the end of the summer all of The Leftovers, which is actually obviously much more contemporary. It's actually, I don't even think the finale's aired yet. It's on its last season right now.
It's in the middle of the season now, I think.
But by the time we get to it, it should have finished, and we'll be watching 2 episodes a week over the summer. Starting sometime early mid-June and finishing about the start of September. Because obviously things are a bit quieter during the summer, and we thought it'd be a fun thing to do. And we'll look at maybe doing other shorter things like that. Maybe, if not next summer, maybe even at Christmas when things are a bit quieter.
Yeah.
But,
unless Netflix throws stuff at us again.
which they might. They may very well do that, and if so, then we'll tackle that as time sees fit. But so that's the plan over the summer. So hopefully, if you've seen The Leftovers, that's interesting to you. You're excited that we're doing that. Obviously, Damien Lindelof, who created The Leftovers, was a big fan of Twin Peaks. So maybe spiritually, there's some things there. One day, I would love to do a Lost because Connor's not seen it. but
I've not. I've I've seen the ending and a couple
annoyingly,
of and a couple of other episodes. But
annoyingly, because I would love to sit here with a smug look in my face as you're trying to figure out all of that shit and saying stuff out.
yeah, yeah.
Polar bear? What's happening? But no, so we'll go to leftovers over the summer. Hopefully that's exciting for some of you. And if you haven't seen it, then maybe you can join in and watch along with us over the summer, and that could be fun for you. But that is the end of the already cancelled portion of Twin Peaks. I say that because when we come back next week for the first double episode of the new show, it's going to be almost cancelled because it's a new season. Although technically Twin Peaks has already been cancelled still, so you could argue either way.
It gets confusing, but
Yeah.
we're just sticking to it. In the same way we were debating whether this should have been an already or an influx.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, this is the time we waste, folks. So let us know what you think of Firewalk with Me in the comments below. Give us your hopes and dreams for the new season by all means, because at this point we're all in caught up territory. But like, subscribe, all that stuff. If you want to help out, if you love what we do here and you want to help out a little bit more, go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, see some of the cool bonuses. And we mentioned that one of the goals was to do a second ongoing already cancelled. You would get to vote on what that show is when the time comes, if we do hit that. Admittedly, it's a higher goal, but one day we might. So, but if you want to help us out, check out that stuff over there. But if not, liking, watching, all that stuff helps us out. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Individual Twitters are on the screen. But that is us, so thanks for joining us on this journey through Twin Peaks. And we start, and actually, I'll quote the poster, next week, it's happening again. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.